When I look back a year from now, I'll realize that the worst day of my life was actually the best. But in that moment, as my father announced I would be marrying Thaddeus Blackwell, all I could think was, I'm officially living in a Victorian novel and forgot to get the memo. But let's go back a few hours, when my biggest worry was just not spilling coffee on my white blouse before an important meeting. "Magnolia, darling," my mother practically sang over the phone that Tuesday morning. "Your father needs to speak with you. It's urgent. Come for dinner tonight." "Mom, it's Tuesday. I have pottery class at 7. Cancel it." But I was finally getting the hang of making a vase that doesn't look like a deformed potato. "Magnolia Evangeline Rosewood. Tonight, 7 o'clock. Wear something nice." And she hung up. There it was. When your mother uses your full name and tells you to dress nicely, only two things are possible. Either someone died or something worse is about to happen. Spoiler alert, nobody had died. I spent the entire day with a knot in my stomach. I worked at my best friend Zinnia's coffee shop, spilling milk and mixing up orders like I was on autopilot. "You're terrible today," Zinnia observed, leaning against the counter. "You forgot Mr. Patterson is allergic to nuts for the 3rd time this week." "Sorry," I muttered, remaking the cappuccino. "What's wrong? Your parents again?" "My mom called. That your life is about to change tone." Zinnia grimaced. "Oh no. The last time she used that tone was when she tried to sign you up for that dating reality show. Don't remind me." At 7 o'clock sharp, I was standing at the door of my parents' mansion in Greenwich, Connecticut, wearing the only presentable dress I owned, a simple navy blue that my mother hated for being without personality. My father opened the door himself, which was already strange. Usually it was Augustus, the butler who'd been with the family since before I was born. "Magnolia, come in." "Dad, you're scaring me." He had that expression I knew well, the face of a businessman about to close a complicated deal. My stomach dropped. In the living room, my mother sat on the sofa, hands elegantly crossed in her lap, a forced smile on her face. And beside her, a man I'd never seen in my life. Tall, broad shoulders, a suit that probably cost more than my car, perfectly styled black hair, a chiseled jaw, and amber eyes that looked capable of freezing hell itself. He looked me up and down with the expression of someone evaluating a questionable investment. "Magnolia, darling." My mother stood up. "This is Thaddeus Blackwell. Thaddeus, this is our daughter, Magnolia." Thaddeus inclined his head slightly. Didn't stand, didn't smile. "Miss Rosewood." His voice was deep, controlled. The kind of voice that signed multi-million-dollar contracts without blinking. Hi," I responded, confused. "Sorry, did I miss something? Why are we doing formal introductions?" My father cleared his throat. "Magnolia, sit down. We need to talk." Something in his tone made me obey immediately. I sat in the armchair across from the sofa, my hands sweating. "What's going on?" My father exchanged a look with my mother, who nodded encouragingly. Then he looked at me, and I saw something I'd never seen before in my father's eyes. Desperation. The company is in serious financial trouble. The world seemed to tilt. "What? But how?" "Bad investments, dishonest partners, decisions that—" He ran his hand over his face. "It doesn't matter how we got here. The fact is, we're on the verge of bankruptcy." "Bankruptcy?" My voice came out shrill. "But you always said Rosewood Enterprises was solid as a rock." "It was. It's not anymore." My father straightened his shoulders, returning to executive mode. "Mr. Blackwell here has made a proposal. He's willing to invest the necessary capital to save the company." That's great." I looked at the Iceman on the sofa, who continued observing me with those penetrating eyes. "Thank you, Mr. Blackwell. Seriously, I don't know how to thank you." "There's a condition," my father interrupted. And there it was, the moment, the damn moment when everything changed. "What condition?" I asked slowly. It was Thaddeus who answered, his voice as indifferent as if he were ordering coffee. Marriage, I blinked. I'm sorry? The condition is that you marry me, Miss Rosewood. Silence. A silence so deep I could hear my own heart hammering in my ribcage. Then I laughed. Laughed out loud because obviously this was a joke, an elaborate prank. Any minute now the cameras would appear. Nobody else laughed. You're serious? I looked at my parents. This is the 21st century. This is insane. Magnolia, my mother began. No. I stood up. This can't be happening. Arranged marriage? Seriously? And you? I pointed at Thaddeus, who raised an eyebrow. Why on earth would you want to marry me? You don't even know me. It's a business arrangement, he replied coldly. I need a wife for family reasons. You need money to save your family's company. It's a mutually beneficial transaction. A transaction? My voice went up 3 octaves. Marriage isn't a transaction. For me it is. The absolute coldness with which he said that left me speechless for a second. Magnolia, my father approached. I know it's a lot. I never imagined it would come to this. But we're desperate. If we don't accept Mr. Blackwell's proposal, we'll lose everything. The company, the house, our savings, everything. And the shares will be sold to cover debts, my mother added, her voice breaking. Your grandfather built this company from the ground up. It's our family's legacy. Then sell the house. Sell the cars. There are other options. We've considered everything, my father said quietly. This is the only one that allows us to maintain our dignity and start over. I looked at Thaddeus Blackwell, who watched me with that unreadable expression, as if I were a particularly boring math problem. Why me? I asked him. Of all the women in the world, why the hell choose a complete stranger? Because you're convenient, he replied simply. You need what I have. I need a wife who understands this is business, not romance. Your parents assured me you're reasonable. 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 I wanted to throw something at him. I take pottery classes on Tuesdays. I work at a coffee shop. I wear socks with cat designs. I'm the opposite of convenient for someone like you. For the first time, something changed in his face. The corner of his mouth curved slightly, not exactly a smile, more like an acknowledgement that I'd said something minimally interesting. Socks with cat designs? That's not the point, I crossed my arms. Magnolia, my mother approached, holding my hands. She had tears in her eyes. I wouldn't want to ask this, but you're our only hope. And look on the bright side. Mr. Blackwell agreed to a 2-year contract. After that, an amicable divorce, you receive generous compensation and move on with your life. 2 years of my life, for money. For your family's legacy, my father corrected. For the employees who depend on the company. For enough. I took a deep breath. I need to think. We have until Friday, Thaddeus said, finally standing up. He was even taller and more imposing on his feet. If your answer is no, I'll withdraw my offer and seek other options. He walked to the door, then stopped and looked back. For your information, Miss Rosewood, I'm no more enthusiastic about this situation than you are, but sometimes we do unpleasant things for greater reasons. Good night. And he left, leaving a trail of expensive cologne and insufferable arrogance. I looked at my parents. I can't believe you did this. Magnolia, my father began. But I was already leaving. I grabbed my purse and practically ran to the car, the tears finally falling. On the way home to my small apartment in Brooklyn, I called Zinnia. You won't believe this, I said as soon as she answered. My parents want me to marry a cold-hearted millionaire to save the family business. That's so absurd it can only be true, coming from you. Come over. I'll open my best bottle of wine. And that's how the worst day of my life began. I still didn't know that a year from now I'd be looking back and smiling. But in that moment, all I wanted was to wake up and discover it had just been a very, very strange nightmare. So, Let me get this straight, Zinnia said, pouring us each a generous glass of Cabernet. Mr. Tall, dark, and emotionally unavailable wants to pay millions to marry you for 2 years, and you're actually considering saying no? Of course I'm saying no. I grabbed the wine glass. This is insane, Zin. People don't do this anymore. Rich people do. She settled onto her worn leather couch. Trust me, I've served enough of them at the shop. They treat everything like a business transaction. Houses, cars, marriages. That's exactly the problem. Marriage shouldn't be a transaction. Says the woman whose parents are about to lose everything. I groaned, dropping my head back against the cushions. You're not helping. I'm being realistic. Zinnia tucked her legs under her. Look, I'm team follow your heart all the way. But your heart isn't going to pay your parents' mortgage when they lose the house your mom grew up in. That hit hard. Mom had shown me pictures of her childhood in that Greenwich mansion. Birthday parties in the garden, Christmas mornings by the grand fireplace. My grandfather had worked himself to exhaustion building Rosewood Enterprises, so his family would never struggle like he had. What would you do? I asked quietly. Zinnia was silent for a long moment. Honestly, I'd probably say yes. But I'd make damn sure I got something out of it besides just saving Mommy and Daddy's company. Like what? Like your freedom, your own terms. She leaned forward. Mags, you've spent your whole life trying to be the opposite of what your parents wanted. Working at my coffee shop instead of taking a corner office. Living in a tiny Brooklyn apartment instead of the Upper East Side. Dating starving artists instead of Wall Street bros. Your point? My point is, maybe this is your chance. 2 years playing the trophy wife, then you walk away with enough money to do whatever the hell you want. Open your own pottery studio, travel the world, finally finish that novel you started in college. I blinked. I didn't think about it that way. Of course you didn't. You were too busy being outraged, she grinned. Which, don't get me wrong, was totally justified. But now that you've had wine and your best friend's wisdom, think strategically. He's so cold, Zin. Like ice sculpture cold. Ice melts. She waggled her eyebrows. Especially with the right heat. Oh my God, stop. I'm just saying, he didn't look terrible from the description. Tall, rich, good jawline. Also arrogant, emotionally stunted, and treating me like a business acquisition. Details. Zinnia waved her hand dismissively. Listen, you have until Friday. Sleep on it. But remember, sometimes the craziest opportunities lead to the best stories. I didn't sleep. At all. Wednesday morning arrived with me staring at my ceiling, alternating between righteous fury and grudging curiosity. At 6 a.m., I gave up and went for a run through Prospect Park, my mind racing faster than my feet. 2 years. Just 2 years of pretending to be Mrs. Thaddeus Blackwell. How hard could it be? My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Unknown. We should discuss terms. Lunch today. 1 p.m. Daniel, I'll send a car. No, please. No, if you're available. Just commands. I typed back, who is this? Unknown. Your potential future husband. Don't be late. The audacity of this man. Me. Bold of you to assume I'm coming. Thaddeus. Bold of you to assume you have better options. The car will be there at 12:45. I stared at my phone, torn between throwing it across the room and grudging admiration for his confidence. Me. Fine, but I'm ordering the most expensive thing on the menu. Thaddeus. I'd expect nothing less. Was that humor? From the Ice King himself? The black Mercedes arrived exactly at 12:45. The driver, a serious-looking man in his 50s, opened the door without a word. I slid into the leather seats, feeling completely out of place in my jeans and sweater. Daniel turned out to be one of Manhattan's most exclusive restaurants. Of course it was. The hostess greeted me with a knowing smile that made my skin crawl. Clearly she'd seated many of Thaddeus Blackwell's companions. He was already there, sitting at a private corner table, typing on his phone. He looked up as I approached, those amber eyes doing that assessment thing again. "You're late," he said, "by 3 minutes." I sat down without waiting for him to stand. "Sue me. Punctuality is important in business. Good thing this isn't business, then." "Oh, wait." I smiled sweetly. "That's all this is to you, isn't it?" His jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "Point to me." "Have you made a decision?" he asked, cutting straight to it. "Maybe, but first, I have questions." "Of course you do." He set his phone down, giving me his full attention. It was unsettling, being the focus of that intense gaze. "Ask. Why do you need a wife? And don't give me that family reasons bullshit." He leaned back, considering. For a moment, I thought he wouldn't answer. Then, "My grandfather's will. I inherit controlling interest in Blackwell Industries only if I'm married before my 35th birthday." "When's your birthday?" 6 weeks. "And you couldn't find someone who actually wants to marry you?" Something flickered across his face, too quick to identify. "I don't want someone who wants to marry me. That leads to complications." "Like feelings?" "Like expectations I can't meet." He met my eyes steadily. "I'm not built for romance, Miss Rosewood. I'm built for business. A contractual arrangement is cleaner." "Cleaner?" "Right." I picked up the menu, mostly to avoid his gaze. "What are the actual terms?" 2 years of marriage. You'll live in my penthouse, attend necessary social functions, play the role of devoted wife in public. In private, you're free to do as you please. Separate bedrooms, your own space. And after 2 years, amicable divorce. You receive $5 million and a brownstone in Brooklyn, fully paid. I nearly dropped the menu. $5 million. Is that insufficient? No, that's insane. That's more than... I stopped, studying him. What's the catch? No catch. Just complete discretion and commitment to the role. No affairs, no scandals, no running to the press. I don't want affairs. I want to know what I'm really signing up for. A business arrangement. Nothing more, nothing less. The waiter appeared, breaking the tension. I ordered the lobster, the most expensive item, as promised. Thaddeus ordered, without looking at the menu. When we were alone again, I took a breath. If I do this, and that's a big if, I have my own terms. He raised an eyebrow. I'm listening. I keep my job at the coffee shop. I'm not playing housewife all day. Agreed. I maintain my own bank account and financial independence. Obviously. And one more thing. I met his eyes. You may not be built for romance, Mr. Blackwell, but I am. So in public, you better sell it. I won't be humiliated by a husband who looks like he'd rather be in a board meeting. For the first time, I saw it. A real smile. Small, but genuine. Deal. So is that a yes, Miss Rosewood? I thought about my parents, the company, the employees who'd known me since childhood, and maybe, just maybe, about the adventure Zinnia had mentioned. On one condition. Another one? Call me Magnolia. If we're doing this, I'm not being Miss Rosewood for 2 years. He extended his hand across the table. Thaddeus. I shook it, his grip firm and warm. So, I said, pulling my hand back before I could think too much about how it felt. When's the wedding? 3 weeks? Is that enough time? To plan a wedding? Barely. To prepare for marrying a stranger? I laughed. Not even close. Then it's fortunate we're both good at improvising. Something in his tone made me think this was going to be far more complicated than either of us anticipated. I just had no idea how right I was. The Reluctant Bride and the Heart of Ice. Chapter 3. Wedding Planning and Melting Ice. Absolutely not. I stared at the wedding dress the boutique owner was showing me, a monstrosity of tulle, crystals, and what appeared to be actual feathers. But Mrs. Blackwell, I'm not Mrs. Blackwell yet, thank God. I turned to my mother, who sat perched on the velvet settee with a champagne flute. Mom, help me out here. Darling, Madame Archambault knows best. She dressed 3 Vanderbilt brides. I don't care if she dressed the Queen of England. I'm not wearing a dress that looks like a swan exploded. Miss Rosewood has opinions, a deep voice said from the doorway. I spun around. Thaddeus stood there in his usual impeccable suit, looking completely out of place among the silk and satin. What are you doing here? I demanded. Grooms aren't supposed to see the dress. We're not a traditional couple. He walked in, hands in his pockets, surveying the options with that analytical gaze. Besides, I have a vested interest in not being embarrassed at my own wedding. Oh, I'm sorry. Is my dress going to affect your stock prices? Potentially. He picked up a simple A-line gown in ivory silk. This one. I looked at the dress, then at him. It was perfect, classic, elegant, with delicate lace sleeves and a flowing skirt. Exactly what I would have chosen. How did you? You wear simple clothes, clean lines, no fuss. He handed it to Madame Archambault. She'll try this one. Mr. Blackwell, with all due respect, the boutique owner began. Bill it to my account. Add 20% for your trouble. He checked his watch. Magnolia, we have an appointment in an hour. We do? Meeting my family. I should have mentioned that earlier. My stomach dropped. Your family? Today? Now? Is there a problem? I'm in jeans and a hoodie. Then it's fortunate we're in a boutique. He nodded to a rack of day dresses. Pick something. 5 minutes. And he walked out, leaving me sputtering. I'm starting to remember why I hate him, I muttered. My mother laughed. Actually laughed. Oh, sweetheart, that man is completely smitten with you. What? No. He barely tolerates me. He chose your wedding dress in 30 seconds and just orchestrated getting you appropriate clothing without making you feel inadequate. That's not tolerance, dear. That's attention. I wanted to argue, but 5 minutes later, I was in a beautiful navy dress that fit perfectly, being ushered into Thaddeus's car. So, I said as we drove through Manhattan, tell me about your family. Any crazy aunts I should know about? Judgmental cousins? My grandmother, Cordelia Blackwell, she's formidable. Formidable? Great. Terrifying, you mean? Perceptive. He almost smiled. She built half of Blackwell Industries after my grandfather died. She's the reason the marriage clause exists in the will. She wants you married. She wants the family name to continue. Legacy is everything to her. He glanced at me. Just be yourself. She respects authenticity. The girl who works at a coffee shop and makes lopsided pottery? The girl who negotiated her own terms and ordered lobster out of spite? This time he definitely smiled. She'll like you. The Blackwell estate in the Hamptons was exactly what I expected. Sprawling, immaculate, intimidating. A butler led us through marble halls to a sun-drenched conservatory where an elegant woman in her 80s sat surrounded by orchids. Grandmother. Thaddeus kissed her cheek. This is Magnolia Rosewood. Magnolia, Cordelia Blackwell. Sharp blue eyes assessed me from head to toe. I resisted the urge to fidget. So you're the girl who finally caught my grandson. Actually, it was more of a business transaction. Thaddeus coughed. That evolved into genuine affection, I finished smoothly, shooting him a look. Cordelia's lips twitched. Sit down, child. Thaddeus, leave us. I want to speak with your fiancé alone. Grandmother. Now. He hesitated, which surprised me. Then squeezed my shoulder briefly, reassurance, and left. Cordelia poured tea with precise movements. You're not what I expected. I get that a lot lately. My grandson needs someone who won't bow to his every whim. Someone with spine. She handed me a cup. Tell me, Miss Rosewood, why are you really marrying him? I could lie. Probably should lie. But something in her direct gaze made me reckless. Honestly, my family's company is failing. He needs a wife to inherit. It's mutually beneficial. Refreshingly honest. She sipped her tea. And you're prepared to spend 2 years with a man who thinks emotions are a weakness? I'm prepared to try. Good, because that boy has had his heart locked away since his parents died. She set down her cup. He was 12. Car accident. He blamed himself for years. Thought if he hadn't asked them to come to his school play that night, they'd still be alive. My chest tightened. I didn't know. Of course you didn't. He doesn't talk about it. Built walls so high, I sometimes wonder if anyone can scale them. She looked at me intently. But maybe you can. Mrs. Blackwell, this is just a contract. Nothing is just anything, dear. Especially not marriage, contract, or otherwise. She stood, and I scrambled to follow. You'll do. Don't let him bully you, and for God's sake, make him smile occasionally. He's far too serious. In the car ride back, I was quiet. She didn't scare you off? Thaddeus asked. She told me about your parents. His jaw clenched. She had no right. Maybe not. But it explains some things. I don't need psychoanalysis, Magnolia. I wasn't offering any. I turned to face him. I'm just saying, I get it now. Why you want everything controlled and contractual. It's safer. This isn't a therapy session. You're right. It's a car ride with your future fake wife who just found out you're not actually made of ice. You're just really scared of melting. He pulled the car over abruptly, turning to glare at me. You don't know anything about me. Then tell me something. Anything real. Because in 3 weeks I'm marrying you, and I'd like to know at least one true thing about the man I'm binding myself to. We stared at each other, tension crackling in the small space. His amber eyes were stormy, conflicted. Finally, quietly, I play piano, late at night, when I can't sleep. Nobody knows. It was such a small confession, but it felt enormous. What do you play? Chopin mostly, Rachmaninoff when I'm frustrated. I'd like to hear it sometime. Maybe. He pulled back onto the road, but something had shifted. Your turn. Tell me something real. I'm terrified this won't work. Not the contract part, the pretending to be in love part. I'm not a very good actress. Then don't pretend. He glanced at me. Just be you. That's all anyone expects. Including you? Especially me. We drove in silence, but it was different now. Comfortable, almost. Thaddeus? Yes? Thank you for picking the right dress. He smiled, really smiled. You're welcome, Magnolia. And somewhere in that moment, I realized this arrangement was going to be much more complicated than either of us had planned. 2 weeks until the wedding. 14 days to prepare for the performance of a lifetime. I just hoped I wouldn't lose myself in the process. We need to practice. I looked up from my cappuccino. Thaddeus had appeared at the coffee shop during my shift, looking absurdly out of place among the vintage furniture and indie music. Practice what? Being married? Pretty sure we just wing it like everyone else. Being in love. He sat across from me at the small table. We have a charity gala tomorrow night. 300 guests, half of them business associates who need to believe this is real. So we smile and hold hands. How hard can it be? You'd be surprised. He leaned back, studying me. When was your last relationship? Why does that matter? Context. I need to know what I'm working with. I sighed. 6 months ago, artist named Fletcher. Lasted 3 months before he decided he needed to find himself in Morocco. Tragic. Your turn. When was your last relationship? Define relationship. Oh my God, you're one of those. Those? Serial daters who never commit. Let me guess. Beautiful women, expensive restaurants, ended after 6 weeks when feelings entered the equation. His silence was answer enough. Fantastic. I'm marrying a commitment phobe with a PhD in emotional unavailability. And I'm marrying a hopeless romantic who works at a coffee shop and thinks love conquers all. We're both making sacrifices. Ouch. But I smiled despite myself. Fine. What do we need to practice? He stood, offering his hand. Dance with me. Here? Now? Thaddeus? I'm working. Zinnia already approved your break. He nodded toward the counter, where my traitorous best friend waved enthusiastically. Come on, the gala will have dancing. Reluctantly, I took his hand. He pulled me into the small space between tables, one hand at my waist, the other holding mine. The coffee shop's playlist had shifted to something slower. Zinnia's doing, no doubt. You're stiff, he observed. You're holding me like I'm a business report. How should I hold you? Like you actually like me, maybe? He adjusted, pulling me closer, much closer. I could smell his cologne now, something woodsy and expensive. Feel the solid warmth of him. Better? His voice was lower. It's adequate. My heart was racing. This was ridiculous. We were just practicing. You're a terrible liar. Was he amused? Your pulse is hammering. Maybe I'm nervous about the gala. Maybe you're affected by this and don't want to admit it. I looked up at him, ready with a sharp retort, and found him watching me with an expression I couldn't quite read. Not quite amusement, not quite interest. Something in between. You're not completely unaffected either, I said quietly. I can feel your heart beating. Physical proximity. Basic biology. Keep telling yourself that. The song ended, but neither of us moved. A customer's throat clearing finally broke the spell. That was... I started. Adequate practice, he finished. I'll pick you up tomorrow at 7. Wear something that makes a statement. What kind of statement? That you're mine. He left before I could formulate a response, leaving me standing in the middle of the coffee shop with weak knees and a confusion of feelings. Zinnia appeared at my elbow. Well, well, well. Don't start. That was the least businesslike business arrangement I've ever seen. We were practicing for the gala. Honey, what you were doing was not practicing. That was foreplay with clothes on. You're insane, and you're blushing. Damn it, I was. The next evening, I stood in front of my closet in a panic. Wear something that makes a statement. What statement? I'm uncomfortable in formal wear. I spent my rent money on this dress? My phone buzzed. Thaddeus, a package arrived for you. Check your door. I opened it to find a garment bag with a note in sharp, precise handwriting. You'll argue, but you'll look stunning. Tea inside was a dress that made me gasp. Emerald green silk that would hug every curve, with a neckline just daring enough to be interesting. Elegant, sophisticated, and somehow exactly my style. Me. This is too much. Thaddeus. Consider it a costume for the role you're playing. Me. I'm keeping it after the divorce. Thaddeus. I'm counting on it. The gala was at the plaza, because of course it was. I felt like an imposter walking through the gilded halls in my beautiful dress and borrowed confidence. Thaddeus was waiting at the entrance, devastating in a tuxedo. His eyes widened fractionally when he saw me, the first unguarded reaction I'd ever gotten from him. Adequate? I asked, echoing his word from yesterday. Stunning. He offered his arm. Ready to convince 300 people we're madly in love? Ready as I'll ever be. The ballroom was a sea of designer gowns and expensive suits. Heads turned as we entered. I felt Thaddeus's hand settle at the small of my back, possessive and warm. Smile, he murmured. You look terrified. I am terrified. I don't belong here. You belong wherever you decide you belong. Now lift your chin and look at me like I'm the only person in the room. I did, and found him looking at me the same way. For a moment, I forgot we were acting. Thaddeus, there you are. A silver-haired man approached with a woman dripping in diamonds, and this must be the mysterious fiancé we've all heard about. Charles, Patricia. Thaddeus's hand tightened on my waist. This is Magnolia Rosewood. Magnolia, Charles Bennett, my business partner. Charmed, Patricia said, though her eyes were calculating. How did you two meet? Thaddeus has been so secretive. I felt Thaddeus tense beside me. We hadn't prepared a story. At a coffee shop, I said smoothly. He ordered the most pretentious drink imaginable, and I made fun of him. It was hate at first sight. Thaddeus looked down at me, and I saw real humor in his eyes. She called my espresso order a cry for help, he added. I was intrigued. And he kept coming back, I continued, warming to the story. Every morning, same terrible order, same terrible small talk about the weather. I thought he was either incredibly boring or incredibly persistent. Turns out both, Thaddeus said, and I nearly choked on my champagne. Was he playing along? When did you know? Patricia pressed, leaning in conspiratorially. Thaddeus turned to face me fully, his amber eyes intense. When she laughed at something I said, really laughed, I realized I'd been coming back every day just to hear that sound. The words were for Patricia, but he was looking at me like they were true. My breath caught. And you? Charles asked me. When he stayed after closing to help me clean up after a disaster with the espresso machine. He ruined a $2,000 suit and didn't complain once. That's when I knew he might be human after all. None of it was true, but it felt like it could be. Patricia clutched her husband's arm. Oh, that's beautiful. You two are simply perfect together. After they left, I let out a breath. Quick thinking. You too. A coffee shop origin story. Very us. The ruined suit part was pure fiction. Was it? He smiled. Give it time. I'm sure you'll destroy expensive clothing eventually. We danced, mingled, played our roles perfectly, and somewhere during the night, between the champagne and the music and the way he looked at me, I forgot we were pretending. On the drive home, I was quiet. What are you thinking? He asked. That we're getting too good at this. Is that a bad thing? I don't know yet. I turned to him. Thaddeus, what happens if this stops feeling like acting? He pulled up to my building, engine idling. Then we deal with it, together. That simple? Nothing about this is simple, Magnolia. But maybe that's not a bad thing either. He walked me to my door, and for a moment, we stood in the dim hallway, the space between us charged. 1 week until the wedding, I whispered. 1 week. He brushed a strand of hair from my face, his fingers lingering. Sleep well. I watched him leave, my heart pounding, knowing sleep was the last thing I'd be doing tonight. This was supposed to be simple, a business arrangement. 2 years and done. So why did it suddenly feel like the most complicated thing I'd ever done? 3 days before the wedding, I had a complete meltdown in the middle of Bloomingdale's. I can't do this, I said to Zinnia, surrounded by registry items I didn't need for a marriage that wasn't real. Crystal champagne flutes? For what? Our fake anniversary toasts? Mags, breathe. And look at this. I held up an absurdly expensive coffee maker. He probably has 6 of these already. What am I even doing here? You're registering for gifts like a normal bride. But I'm not a normal bride. I'm a fraud who's marrying a man for money, and I don't even have the decency to feel completely terrible about it because... I stopped abruptly. Because? Zinnia prompted, eyebrows raised knowingly. Nothing. Forget it. Oh no. Finish that sentence. Because what? I set down the coffee maker, my voice dropping to a whisper. Because I'm starting to like him, Zin. Really like him. And that wasn't part of the plan. She squealed so loudly, several shoppers turned to stare. Finally! I've been waiting for you to admit it. This is a disaster. This is amazing. The Ice King is melting and you're the one doing it. It's not like that. He still barely talks about anything real. Every conversation is carefully controlled. Except when it's not. She gave me a knowing look. You told me about the dancing, the dress, the way he looks at you when he thinks you're not watching. That's just good acting. Nobody's that good an actor, honey. My phone buzzed. Speak of the devil. Thaddeus. Emergency. Can you come to the penthouse now? My stomach dropped. Me. What's wrong? Thaddeus. Just come, please. The please got me moving. 20 minutes later, I was standing in Thaddeus's penthouse for the first time. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Central Park, everything sleek and modern and completely impersonal. Like a hotel room, not a home. Thaddeus? I called out. Here. I followed his voice to what must be his office. He sat at a massive desk, tie loosened, hair disheveled, the most unpolished I'd ever seen him. Papers were scattered everywhere. What happened? I asked. My brother. He didn't look up. Showed up an hour ago. He's contesting the will. Can he do that? He can try. Claims grandfather wasn't of sound mind when he wrote the marriage clause, that I'm manipulating the situation. He finally met my eyes. He's not entirely wrong. I sat in the chair across from him. What does this mean for the wedding? Means we need to be even more convincing. His lawyers will be watching everything, looking for proof this is a sham. He rubbed his face. I shouldn't have dragged you into this mess. You didn't drag me. I agreed, remember? For your family, not for my corporate drama. Hey. I reached across the desk, covering his hand with mine. We made a deal. I don't back out of deals. He stared at our joined hands like he didn't quite know what to do with the gesture. Why are you being nice to me? I've given you nothing but complications. Because despite your best efforts to be an unfeeling robot, you're actually a decent person. Also, you're clearly spiraling and someone needs to tell you it's going to be okay. You can't know that. No, but I can believe it. Optimism, Thaddeus. Try it sometime. He almost smiled. Almost. My brother will be at the wedding. He'll be watching for any sign we're faking. Then we don't give him one. I squeezed his hand. We've been practicing, right? We can do this. Magnolia. His voice was quiet. What if I'm not capable of giving you what you deserve, even in pretense? What do you think I deserve? Someone who can actually love you, not this. He gestured vaguely at himself. My heart cracked a little. You really don't see it, do you? See what? That you're already halfway there. I stood up, walking around the desk. The dress you picked, the way you held me when we danced, calling me when you needed someone. These aren't the actions of someone incapable of feeling, Thaddeus. They're the actions of someone terrified of it. He stood too, and suddenly we were very close in the small space. And if you're right, if I'm falling for my own fake wife, then we figure it out, together, like you said. This is insane. Everything about this situation is insane. Might as well embrace it. He laughed, actually laughed. A real, genuine sound that transformed his entire face. You're absolutely ridiculous. You're just figuring this out now? Before I could process what was happening, he cupped my face in his hands. I want to kiss you, he said, voice rough. Not for practice, not for show, just because I haven't been able to think about anything else since the gala. My breath caught. Then kiss me. He did. It wasn't gentle or tentative. It was desperate and real and perfect. His hands tangled in my hair, pulling me closer. I grabbed his shirt, feeling his heart racing as fast as mine. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, he rested his forehead against mine. This complicates things, he murmured. Everything about us is complicated. 2 days until the wedding. I know. What are we doing, Magnolia? Honestly, I have no idea. But maybe that's okay. He kissed me again, softer this time, sweet and questioning and full of possibility. Stay, he said against my lips. Not for anything. Just stay. I don't want to be alone tonight. Okay. We ended up on his couch, my head on his shoulder, watching the city lights. He told me about his brother, the jealousy, the competition, the years of resentment. I told him about the pressure of being an only child, the expectations I could never meet. "Your parents love you," he said. "I know, but I've always felt like a disappointment. The daughter who chose coffee shops over corner offices. You're not a disappointment. You're authentic. That's rare. Coming from the king of emotional walls, I'll take that as a compliment." He pressed a kiss to my temple. "You should." Somewhere around midnight, I dozed off. When I woke at dawn, I was covered with a blanket. Thaddeus's suit jacket folded as a pillow beneath my head. He sat at the piano across the room, playing something hauntingly beautiful. I watched him, this complicated man I was about to marry, and felt something shift in my chest. Something terrifying and wonderful and completely unplanned. He noticed me watching and stopped playing. "Chopin," I said. "Nocturne in E-flat major. You know it? My grandmother played it. Used to put me to sleep when I was little." He patted the bench beside him. I went, sitting close enough that our shoulders touched. He played again, and I closed my eyes, letting the music wash over me. "Thaddeus? I think we're in trouble." His hand stilled on the keys. "I know. What do we do about it?" "Get married, apparently. Then figure out the rest. That's a terrible plan. You have a better one?" I turned to look at him, really look at him. The early morning light made his eyes look golden, softening the sharp edges I'd thought were permanent. "No," I admitted. "I really don't." He kissed me again, tender and sure, and for the first time since this whole thing started, I wasn't afraid. 2 days until the wedding. 48 hours until I became Mrs. Thaddeus Blackwell. And somehow, impossibly, I was actually looking forward to it. "Stop fidgeting. You're going to ruin the dress." My mother swatted my hands away from the lace sleeves. I stood in the bridal suite of the plaza, feeling like I was living in someone else's life. "Mom, can I ask you something?" "Of course, darling." "How did you know Dad was the one?" "Really know?" She smiled, adjusting my veil. "He made me laugh when I wanted to cry, made me brave when I was scared. And when I looked at him, I saw my future, not the one I planned, but the one I wanted." She cupped my face. "Why do you ask?" "Just wondering if 2 people can fall in love in 3 weeks. "Oh, sweetheart." Her eyes were knowing. "You're not wondering. You already know the answer." A knock interrupted us. Zinnia burst in, gorgeous in her maid of honor dress. "We have a problem. Code red. Thaddeus's brother is here, and he brought a lawyer and a camera crew." My stomach plummeted. "What?" "He's claiming he has proof the marriage is fraudulent. He's threatening to stop the ceremony." I grabbed my phone, dialing Thaddeus. He answered on the first ring. "I know," he said, voice tight. "Stay there. I'm handling it." "Thaddeus, trust me, please." The line went dead. 15 minutes later, I was pacing the suite in my wedding dress when my door flew open. But it wasn't Thaddeus. It was his brother. Sebastian Blackwell was handsome in that sharp, cruel way some men are. Same dark hair as Thaddeus, but cold blue eyes instead of amber warmth. Well, well, the blushing bride. His smile was poisonous. Or should I say the opportunistic gold digger. "Get out," Zinnia said, stepping forward. "I just want to talk to Miss Rosewood. Alone." He held up his hands in mock surrender. 5 minutes, that's all." "It's okay, Zin." I nodded. "Give us a minute." She left reluctantly, glaring daggers at Sebastian. "What do you want?" I asked, crossing my arms. "To make you an offer. Walk away now, and I'll personally give you $2 million. More than enough to save Mommy and Daddy's little company." "I'm not interested." "Really? Because from where I'm standing, you're a nobody who's stumbled into a fortune. My brother doesn't love you. He's incapable of it. You're just a means to an end." His words hit close to my own fears, but I forced myself to stand tall. "You don't know anything about your brother. I know everything about him. We grew up in the same house, suffered the same tragedy. The difference? I didn't let it turn me into an emotional cripple. He stepped closer. He'll never love you, Miss Rosewood. He'll give you money, status, everything except the one thing you actually want. Is that really worth it? You're wrong about him. Am I? Has he told you he loves you? Actually said the words? I faltered. He hadn't. We'd kissed, spent the night talking, shared moments that felt real. But no, he'd never said those words. Sebastian saw my hesitation and smiled triumphantly. That's what I thought. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to walk out of here, and I'm going to make sure you're compensated for your trouble. Everyone wins. Everyone except Thaddeus. My brother doesn't need you to save him. He needs someone to save him from himself, and sweetheart, you're not equipped for that job. The door burst open. Thaddeus stood there, breathing hard, eyes blazing. Sebastian, out, now. Just having a chat with your bride. I said out. I'd never heard that tone from him. Pure fury, barely contained. Sebastian shrugged, walking to the door. Think about my offer, Miss Rosewood. You have until the ceremony starts. He left, and suddenly it was just Thaddeus and me, the air thick with tension. What did he say to you? Thaddeus asked quietly. That you don't love me. That I'm just a means to an end. I looked at him. Is he right? Magnolia. Because if this is still just business to you, I need to know. Right now, before I walk down that aisle. He crossed the room in 3 strides, taking my face in his hands. Listen to me. When this started, yes, it was business. A transaction. But somewhere between your terrible coffee shop jokes and the way you call me out on my bullshit, something changed. His thumb brushed my cheek. I'm terrified. Absolutely terrified. Because I haven't felt anything real in 15 years, and suddenly I feel everything. And it's all because of you. That's not the same as love, I whispered. I know. His voice broke slightly. I don't know if I remember how to love someone, Magnolia. But I want to learn. With you. If you'll let me. Tears spilled over. That's the most romantic thing anyone's ever said to me. Really? Because I feel like I'm failing miserably at this. I laughed through my tears. You're doing fine. Magnolia, I can't promise I'll be good at this. I can't promise I won't mess up or retreat when things get hard. But I can promise I'll try. Every single day, I'll try. He pressed his forehead to mine. Marry me. Not because of contracts or money or family obligations. Marry me because you want to see where this goes. Because you believe I'm worth the risk. Are you worth the risk? Probably not. But I'm hoping you'll take the chance anyway. I kissed him, tasting salt from my tears and hope from his words. Yes, I said against his lips. I'll marry you. The real you, not the contract version. Thank God. He pulled back, wiping my tears carefully. Although I should mention, your makeup is a disaster. Shut up and get out. I need to fix my face before I become your wife. At the door, he paused. Magnolia, I might not know how to say it yet, but... He met my eyes. I'm getting there. I promise. I know, I smiled. Now go. Bad luck to see the bride before the wedding. Pretty sure we've already broken every wedding tradition there is. Then what's one more? 20 minutes later, I stood at the back of the plaza's grand ballroom, my father beside me. Through the open doors, I could see Thaddeus at the altar, looking devastating and nervous and perfect. Last chance to run, Dad whispered. Not running. Not anymore. He's a good man, sweetheart. Rough around the edges, but good. I know. The music started. My cue. As I walked down the aisle, I only saw Thaddeus. The way his eyes widened when he saw me. The slight tremble in his hands. The smile that transformed his entire face. Not the polished public smile, but something real and vulnerable and meant only for me. Sebastian sat in the third row, scowling, but I didn't care. When I reached the altar, Thaddeus took my hands. "Hi," he whispered. "Hi yourself." The ceremony was a blur. I barely heard the officiant's words, too focused on Thaddeus's amber eyes, the way his thumb traced circles on my hand, the promise in his gaze. "Do you, Thaddeus James Blackwell, take Magnolia Evangeline Rosewood to be your lawfully wedded wife?" "I do." Clear and certain. "And do you, Magnolia Evangeline Rosewood, take Thaddeus James Blackwell to be your lawfully wedded husband?" I looked at this man I'd known for 3 weeks. This complicated, damaged, beautiful man who was learning to feel again. "I do." "Then, by the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss your bride." Thaddeus pulled me close, and when he kissed me, I heard the applause but felt only him. Only us. Only this moment that was supposed to be fake, but had become the most real thing in my life. When we pulled apart, he whispered in my ear, "No turning back now, Mrs. Blackwell. Wouldn't dream of it." We walked back down the aisle together, hand in hand, while cameras flashed and guests cheered. Sebastian was already gone. His scheme failed. At the reception, as we danced our first dance as husband and wife, Thaddeus held me close. "What happens now?" I asked. "Now? We live. We figure it out as we go. We probably fight and make up and drive each other crazy." Sounds perfect. Sounds terrifying. Same thing. I smiled up at him. "Thank you." For what?" "For taking a chance on the girl who makes fun of your coffee order." He laughed, spinning me around. Best investment I ever made. And somehow, impossibly, my fake marriage had become my real future. The scary part? I couldn't wait to see what came next. "This is ridiculous," I said, staring at the private jet. "We're going to the Amalfi Coast for a week, for a honeymoon, a real honeymoon." "Is there a problem, Mrs. Blackwell?" Thaddeus asked, amusement in his voice as he used my new name. "I still work at a coffee shop. This feels insane. You're also married to a CEO. Get used to insane." He took my hand, pulling me toward the stairs. "Besides, we deserve this. When was the last time you took a vacation?" "Define vacation. Time off, relaxation, not working." "Never then." He stopped, turning to face me. "Then we definitely deserve this." The week in Italy was like living in a dream. Thaddeus was different there, lighter, more open. We explored villages, ate obscene amounts of pasta, and spent hours on a private beach where he actually laughed at my terrible Italian pronunciation. On our 4th night, lying on the villa's terrace under impossible stars, he played with my wedding ring. "What are you thinking?" I asked. "That I don't want this to end?" "It's just a week, Thaddeus. We go home and real life starts." "That's what I'm afraid of." He pulled me closer. "Here, it's easy. No company drama, no Sebastian, no expectations. Just us. We'll figure out how to be just us in New York, too. Promise?" "Promise." I should have known real life wouldn't be that simple. 2 weeks after returning home, I barely saw my husband. Thaddeus left before I woke up and came home after I was asleep. When we did cross paths, he was distracted, buried in his phone or laptop. The man who'd held me under Italian stars had disappeared, replaced by the Ice King I'd first met. "He's drowning in the Sebastian situation," Zinnia said over coffee. "Cut him some slack." "I would if he'd actually talked to me about it." I stirred my latte aggressively. "We're supposed to be partners, but he's shutting me out. So tell him that. I've tried. He just says, 'It's handled,' and goes back to his laptop." That night, I decided enough was enough. I waited up, and when Thaddeus finally came home at 11, I was sitting in the living room. "We need to talk," I said. He sighed, loosening his tie. "Magnolia, I'm exhausted." "I don't care. You've been avoiding me for 2 weeks." "I'm not avoiding you. I'm working. You're hiding. There's a difference. I stood up. What happened to figuring it out together? To learning how to do this? Sebastian filed another lawsuit. The board is questioning my judgment. I have investors threatening to pull out. His voice rose. Forgive me if I don't have time for heart-to-hearts right now. I'm not asking for a heart-to-heart. I'm asking you to let me in, to stop treating me like I'm just another problem to manage. Maybe if you understood how business works. Don't. My voice went cold. Don't you dare dismiss me like that. He ran his hands through his hair, and I saw it, the moment he realized what he'd said. Magnolia, I didn't mean… Yes, you did. That's the problem. I grabbed my jacket. You're so scared of actually needing someone that the second things get hard, you retreat. Well, guess what? Marriage is hard. Real love is hard. And if you can't handle that, then maybe Sebastian was right. Where are you going? To Zinnia's, because apparently that's where I go when my husband decides he's better off alone. I left before he could respond, tears streaming down my face. I spent 2 days at Zinnia's apartment, ignoring Thaddeus's calls and texts. On the 3rd morning, there was a knock at the door. Thaddeus stood there looking like he hadn't slept. His suit was wrinkled, his hair a mess. I'm an idiot, he said without preamble. I know. Can I come in? I stepped aside. He walked to the couch, sitting down heavily. I'm sorry. You were right about everything. He looked at me, and I saw genuine anguish in his eyes. I got scared. Things were good, too good, and I panicked. Fell back into old patterns. Why didn't you just tell me that? Because admitting I'm scared means admitting I have something to lose. And I've spent 15 years making sure I never have anything to lose. He stood, moving closer. But I do. I have you. And the thought of losing you terrifies me more than any lawsuit or business deal ever could. Thaddeus, let me finish. Please. He took my hands. I promised I'd try. I promised I'd learn how to do this. And then at the first real test, I failed. But I want to do better. I want to be better, for you, for us. I don't need you to be perfect. I just need you to be present. I know, and I will be. No more hiding behind work. No more shutting you out. He cupped my face. You're my wife, my partner, and I love you. I froze. What? I love you, Magnolia. I think I have since you made fun of my espresso order that first day at the gala. I was just too scared to admit it. You love me. I was crying now, happy tears. Say it again. I love you. He kissed my forehead. I love you. My cheeks. I love you. Finally, my lips. I love you. And I'm sorry it took me so long to say it. I kissed him back, pouring everything into it. The frustration, the fear, the love I'd been too scared to voice. I love you too, I whispered against his mouth. Even when you're being an emotionally stunted workaholic. He laughed, the sound breaking something loose in my chest. Come home? He asked. On one condition. Anything. We do this together. All of it. The good, the bad, the terrifying. No more retreating. Deal. He pulled me close, and I felt him relax for the first time in weeks. Thank you. For what? For not giving up on me. For seeing something worth saving. Always. That night, back in our penthouse, Thaddeus actually told me about the Sebastian situation. We strategized together, and I offered perspectives he hadn't considered. When he tried to apologize again, I kissed him quiet. We're going to mess up, I said. Both of us. That's part of this. As long as we mess up together. Together. Later, as we lay in bed, his fingers tracing patterns on my shoulder, he said, You know what's funny? What? This started as the most practical decision of my life. A business arrangement. Nothing emotional. And now? Now it's the most impractical, irrational, emotional thing I've ever done. He tilted my chin up to look at him. And I wouldn't change a single thing. Not even the part where I called you emotionally stunted? Especially not that part. Someone needs to keep me honest. I snuggled closer, feeling his heartbeat steady and strong. Thaddeus? We're going to be okay, right? Better than okay. He kissed the top of my head. We're going to be extraordinary. And lying there in the dark, wrapped in each other and promises, I believed him. One more challenge waited, Sebastian's final move. But now we'd face it together. And together, we were unstoppable. He's calling an emergency board meeting, Thaddeus said, pacing our living room. Sebastian convinced 3 board members that our marriage is fraudulent. If they vote with him, I lose everything. When? I asked, closing my laptop where I'd been researching corporate law for the past week. Tomorrow, 10 a.m. He stopped, looking at me with those amber eyes I'd grown to love. I'm sorry. I dragged you into this mess and now… Stop. I stood, walking to him. We're in this together, remember? So what's our move? Our move? You think I've been reading corporate bylaws for fun? I have an idea. I grabbed my notebook, filled with scribbled notes. Sebastian's claiming the marriage is fake, right? That we don't actually love each other? That's his entire case. Then we prove him wrong, publicly, undeniably. His expression shifted from despair to intrigue. I'm listening. The next morning, I walked into Blackwell Industries' boardroom wearing my best suit, the one Thaddeus had bought me, claiming every CEO's wife needed proper armor. The board members looked shocked to see me. Mrs. Blackwell, the chairman said uncertainly, this is a private board meeting. Actually, Mr. Chen, as Thaddeus's wife and legal partner, I have every right to be here. Check your bylaws, Section 7, Paragraph 3. I smiled sweetly, taking a seat beside my husband. Shall we begin? Sebastian's jaw clenched. This is highly irregular. So is trying to steal your brother's company with fraudulent claims, but here we are. I opened my folder. Gentlemen, you've called this meeting based on allegations that my marriage to Thaddeus is a sham. I'm here to address those allegations directly. Magnolia, you don't have to… Thaddeus started. I squeezed his hand under the table. Yes, I do. Looking at each board member, I continued. Sebastian claims we don't love each other, that this marriage is purely transactional. And you know what? He's partially right. The room erupted. Thaddeus's hand tightened on mine. It started as a transaction, I said calmly. My family needed help. Thaddeus needed a wife to meet his grandfather's will requirements. It was a business arrangement. But here's what Sebastian doesn't understand. Love doesn't care about how it starts. It cares about how it grows. I pulled out my phone, projecting images onto the screen. These are from our honeymoon. Notice anything? Sebastian leaned forward, searching for damning evidence. But there was none. Just photos of Thaddeus and me, genuinely happy. Him teaching me to say ti amo incorrectly. Me covered in gelato after dropping my cone. Both of us laughing. These are the photos we didn't post on social media, the ones not for show. I clicked to the next slide. These are texts between us. Thaddeus, you left your cat socks at my place. Me. Our place. I live there too, remember? Thaddeus, how could I forget? They're in my sock drawer. Me. You kept them in your drawer? Thaddeus, they made me smile. Sue me. Several board members were smiling now. Here's another. I clicked forward. Me. Bad day. Need coffee and complaints. Thaddeus, come to my office. I'll provide both. Me. You hate complaints. Thaddeus, I love you more. That was 2 weeks ago, I said softly. When we had our first real fight, Thaddeus could have let me stay angry, but instead he reminded me why we work. Sebastian stood abruptly. This proves nothing. Text messages can be fabricated. Sit down, Sebastian. Cordelia Blackwell's voice cut through the room like a knife. I hadn't even noticed her enter. You've embarrassed this family enough. Grandmother, she's a gold digger. She's family, more than you've been in years. Cordelia moved to the head of the table. I've watched Thaddeus for 3 decades. Watched him build walls so high, I thought no one could reach him. Then this girl walks into his life and suddenly my grandson laughs. Actually laughs. She looked at me with warm eyes. That's not fake, Sebastian. That's love. This is absurd. Sebastian slammed his hand on the table. You're all blind. She married him for money. And you're challenging his inheritance for what? Love of family? Thaddeus finally spoke, his voice cold. At least Magnolia's honest about her motivations. You've pretended to care about this company while actively trying to destroy it. I'm trying to save it from your incompetence. Really? Because I have proof you've been leaking company secrets to our competitors. That you orchestrated the financial issues that made me desperate enough to marry in the first place. Thaddeus pulled out his own folder. You wanted me to fail, Sebastian. You wanted me to lose everything so you could swoop in as the hero. The room went silent. Sebastian's face drained of color. You can't prove that. Actually, I can. Emails, wire transfers, recorded conversations with your contact at Morrison Tech. Thaddeus stood, walking around the table. You're my brother, and I wanted to believe you had some good left in you. But you've proven otherwise. Mr. Chen, I said quietly, I believe you have a vote to conduct. The chairman cleared his throat. All in favor of upholding Thaddeus Blackwell's position as CEO and recognizing his marriage as legitimate. Every hand went up, even the 3 Sebastian had supposedly convinced. Motion carries unanimously. Mr. Chen looked at Sebastian. You're dismissed from the board, effective immediately. Security will escort you out. Sebastian looked at Thaddeus with pure hatred. This isn't over. Yes, it is. Thaddeus's voice was firm, but not cruel. I'm not angry, Sebastian. I'm disappointed. We could have been family. Instead, you chose this. As security led Sebastian away, the room slowly emptied. Finally, it was just Thaddeus, Cordelia, and me. Well handled, my dear, Cordelia said, patting my hand. Welcome to the family. Officially. After she left, Thaddeus pulled me into his arms. You were magnificent, he whispered. We were magnificent. I looked up at him. Together, remember? Together. He kissed me softly. You know what the best part is? What? Everything you said in there was true. Every word, every text, every feeling. He rested his forehead against mine. I really do love finding your ridiculous cat socks in my drawer. I laughed, tears in my eyes. Our drawer, he agreed. That night, back at the penthouse, we celebrated with takeout Chinese food and cheap wine. My choice, not his. Mrs. Blackwell, he said, raising his glass. CEO's wife, corporate warrior, and the woman who saved my company and my soul. What do you want to do now? Now? I clinked my glass against his. Now we live. Really live. No more drama, no more scheming brothers. Just us figuring out this weird, wonderful life we've built. Sounds perfect. Oh, and I'm keeping my job at the coffee shop. He groaned dramatically. Of course you are. Someone has to keep you humble, Mr. Blackwell. That's what I have you for. I curled up against him on the couch, feeling his heartbeat steady and strong. Thaddeus? Thank you for taking a chance on the girl with cat socks. Thank you for taking a chance on the emotionally stunted Ice King. You're not that anymore. No. He kissed the top of my head. I'm not. Thanks to you. Outside, the city lights twinkled like stars. Inside, we had everything we needed. It had started as a contract, a business arrangement between strangers. But somewhere between the signatures and the skepticism, between the pretending and the promises, we'd found something real. We'd found us. And that was worth more than any inheritance, any company, any fortune. That was worth everything. 1 year later, I woke to the sound of piano music drifting through our penthouse. Chopin's Nocturne, the one that had become our song after that morning I'd watched him play. Slipping out of bed, I padded barefoot to the living room. Thaddeus sat at the piano in his pajama pants and nothing else, completely absorbed in the music. Even after a year of marriage, the sight of him like this, unguarded and peaceful, still made my heart skip. "You're staring," he said without opening his eyes or missing a note. "You're worth staring at." I moved behind him, wrapping my arms around his shoulders and kissing the top of his head. Couldn't sleep? Too excited. He finished the piece and pulled me around to sit on his lap. "It's our anniversary. 1 year of being married to you. Technically, it's been 1 year and 2 days. Our real anniversary was Thursday. I know. But today marks 1 year since you walked into that boardroom and eviscerated my brother while defending our love." He tucked a strand of hair behind my ear. "That's the anniversary I want to celebrate. You're such a sap now. What happened to the Ice King I married? You melted him." He kissed me softly. "Besides, I have a surprise. Thaddeus, we said no big gifts. It's not a gift. It's more of an opportunity." He looked almost nervous, which was adorable. "How do you feel about expanding our family?" My heart stopped. Are you saying, "Not a baby, not yet, anyway"? He laughed at my expression. "Though we should probably discuss that soon. No, I meant this." He pulled out his phone, showing me a building listing. A beautiful brownstone in Brooklyn, not far from Zinnia's coffee shop. "It's for sale," he explained. 3 stories, commercial space on the ground floor, living quarters above. I thought maybe you could open your pottery studio, the one you've been dreaming about. Tears immediately filled my eyes. "Thaddeus, that's too much." "It's not. You've been working at that coffee shop for a year while being a CEO's wife. You've attended every boring gala, every tedious dinner party, smiled through every insufferable business meeting." He cupped my face. "You've built this life with me, supported me through everything. Now I want to support your dreams." "I love you so much it's actually ridiculous," I whispered. "I love you more," which coming from me is saying something. He grinned. "So, want to be a business owner?" Yes, absolutely yes," I kissed him enthusiastically. "Although, I'm keeping my shifts at Zinnia's. That's non-negotiable. I wouldn't expect anything less." Later that morning, we met Zinnia, my parents, and Cordelia for brunch at our favorite restaurant in the village. It had become our tradition, family brunch every Sunday, no business talk allowed. "Look at you two," Zinnia said as we arrived hand in hand, still in the honeymoon phase. "It's been a year," my mother protested, but she was smiling. "Some couples never leave the honeymoon phase," Cordelia observed wisely. "Particularly when they fight for their love instead of taking it for granted." "Speaking of fighting," my father said, "I heard Sebastian moved to London." "He did." Thaddeus's hand tightened on mine briefly. "Started his own firm. We don't talk, but I hope he finds whatever he's looking for." I squeezed back. Even after everything Sebastian had done, Thaddeus had tried to build a bridge. His brother had refused, but at least Thaddeus had tried. That was growth. "Enough about him," I said brightly. "We have news. Thaddeus bought me a brownstone." "He did what?" Zinnia shrieked. I explained about the pottery studio, and soon everyone was talking excitedly, making plans. My mother was already designing the space in her head. My father was discussing business licenses. Cordelia was planning a grand opening party. Watching them all, my family, chosen and blood, I felt overwhelmingly grateful. "Hey," Thaddeus whispered in my ear. "You okay?" "Perfect. Absolutely perfect." That evening, we hosted our own small celebration at the penthouse. Just us, cheap wine, my choice, expensive cheese, his compromise, and the city lights twinkling outside. "Remember our first night here?" I asked, curled up against him on the couch. When you told me about your parents and I realized you weren't actually made of ice, I remember thinking you were going to run screaming. He played with my wedding ring, a habit he'd developed. I just told you my deepest trauma, and you responded with empathy instead of pity. You remember our first kiss? In your office when Sebastian threatened the company? I remember thinking I'd never wanted anything more in my life. He tilted my chin up. I still feel that way. Every single day. Even when I leave my pottery clay everywhere? Especially then, he kissed me. Although your cat socks are still my favorite. Our sock drawer is 80% my cat socks now. And I love every ridiculous pair. We sat in comfortable silence watching the city we'd both come to see as home. Thaddeus? About that baby discussion. He tensed slightly, then relaxed, pulling me closer. Yeah? I think I'm ready. Whenever you are. No pressure, but I want to build a family with you. A real family. Chaos and cat socks and all. He was quiet for so long I thought I'd scared him. Then, I'd like that. A lot. Maybe after the studio opens. Give us 6 months to get settled. Perfect. I smiled against his chest. We're really doing this, aren't we? The whole domestic bliss thing? Apparently. He sounded bemused. A year ago, I would have said it was impossible, that I was incapable of this kind of happiness. And now? Now I can't imagine being happy any other way. He turned to face me fully. You know what's funny? This was supposed to be a 2-year contract. We're only halfway through. Want to renegotiate? Definitely. I'm thinking lifetime commitment. No exit clause, all in. That's a terrible business deal. Best one I ever made. He kissed me again, deeper this time. So? Do we have an agreement, Mrs. Blackwell? We have a deal, Mr. Blackwell. I grinned, although I'm keeping my negotiating rights for all future decisions. I wouldn't have it any other way. Later that night, as we got ready for bed, I found Thaddeus standing at the window, looking out at the city. What are you thinking? I asked, wrapping my arms around him from behind. That a year ago, I was a man who had everything and felt nothing. Now, I have everything that matters. He turned in my arms. Thank you. For what? For seeing past the ice. For being stubborn enough to fight for us. For teaching me that love isn't a weakness. It's the bravest thing we can do. You taught me some things, too. That it's okay to want more, to dream bigger, to take risks. I stood on my toes to kiss him. We saved each other. Best business arrangement ever. It stopped being business a long time ago. I know. He smiled, that real, full smile that still felt like a gift. Come to bed, wife of mine. So demanding, husband of mine. As we settled into bed, wrapped in each other in contentment, I thought about how we'd started. A desperate arrangement between strangers. A cold transaction meant to solve practical problems. But somehow, impossibly, we'd found something neither of us had been looking for. We'd found love. Real, messy, complicated, beautiful love. And it was worth more than any contract, any fortune, any carefully laid plan. Because the best things in life aren't planned. They're discovered. In coffee shops and boardrooms, in moments of vulnerability and acts of courage, in cat socks and piano music and late-night conversations. They're found in the space between I do and I love you, in the journey from ice to warmth, from strangers to soulmates, from a business arrangement to the love story of a lifetime. Magnolia? Thaddeus murmured sleepily. Yeah? Thank you for making fun of my espresso order. I laughed, snuggling closer. Thank you for being persistent enough to come back. Always. And in the quiet of our bedroom, with the city sleeping below and our future stretching bright ahead, we fell asleep in each other's arms. Mr. and Mrs. Blackwell, partners in business and life, two people who'd signed a contract and found forever instead. Yentai,